Welcome to the Miami Heat Zone podcast. We are pushing to 7,000 subscribers. Today we have a major guest in the building, Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. Brandon, for the people that don't know who you are, just give them a brief overview and let's get into the video.
Hey everybody, Brandon Scoop B. Robinson joining you guys. Thanks for having me. Been in the industry for about 2 decades, and I have my own platform called Scoop B Radio. But before all of that, I started in the industry at 12 years old, working for the Nets. I've worked for Bally Sports Network, Spotify, CBS, and everywhere in between. And you can check out all my work at Scoop B Radio, scoopb.com, where you can find my blog and subscribe to Scoop B Radio on all streaming platforms. Brother, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of rumors right now going on with the Miami Heat, but let's first start off with Jimmy Butler. There's a lot of people that will say, they don't like Pat Riley or stars won't go to the Miami Heat because of Pat Riley. What do you think about the whole Jimmy Butler situation? Should he have been paid? Should he have just been traded and, call it a day? Like, what do you think about that situation and how it affects, future stars coming to the Miami Heat?
Well, it's interesting. Specifically to your question about Jimmy Butler, it kind of reminds me of Saquon Barkley's situation with the Giants, and then ultimately finding greener pastures, literally signing with the Philadelphia Eagles and winning a Super Bowl. Jimmy didn't win an NBA championship with the Golden State Warriors, but he did play and it seemed to have a lot of gas left in the tank at many points during the playoffs. But ultimately, it came down to, I think, his age coupled with just his lack of connectivity with the Heat. Specifically to Jimmy, he wanted his money. And I also just think that for Jimmy, for a long time, he's often been looked at as a blue-collar star in comparison to his peers like LeBron and many others. And I think he wanted to be treated like the star that he believes that he is. And I think at this point in his career, going to Golden State made a lot of sense as it relates to playing amongst other peers. It'd be interesting to see how that season would have went had they had more time together. But ultimately, did the Heat make the right decision? Well, if you don't want someone, if someone doesn't want to play in an organization, you find the right fit. I will tell you that the Milwaukee Bucks were a team that were very high on Jimmy Butler, but they couldn't get it done. As much smoke as there was concerning the Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal was never leaving because he was locked into a situation where contractually he held the deck of the cards. And so this offseason, you kind of look at that situation and it seems that people are looking at the Bucks and people are looking at Giannis. And I know the Golden State Warriors are a team that some have made mention of could go there. So you wonder, if the Bucks are still interested in Jimmy Butler and if Giannis does not find that staying in Milwaukee fits him, and if the Bucks do look to go elsewhere, you wonder if Jimmy Butler is someone that they revisit if the Warriors don't retain Jimmy Butler. So I think that's interesting. However, I don't see that happening realistically. I do see teams like the Nets and teams like the Toronto Raptors specifically, as I reported, going after him because those are 2 teams of interest that Giannis has interest in.
Now, where does Giannis stand with the Miami Heat? Like, I know that you also reported, he wasn't really too thrilled with Pat Riley. My biggest thing is, like when you have Jimmy Butler that comes out and says, the Miami Heat have allowed me to be me. Of course, contract and everything didn't work out, but they let him do a lot of things that LeBron James, D Wade, and Chris Bosh couldn't do. He was on the private planes. He was staying away from the teams at time, like with the Airbnbs. So where is Giannis right now in the Miami Heat? I know it's a long shot, and I know that the Milwaukee Bucks are not going to pick up the phone if Bam is not even included in the deal. But where does Giannis stand right now with the Miami Heat, if you have anything about that?
Well, when I reported over at Scoopy.com on my blog, I discussed that he was not really feeling Pat Riley as it relates to just, more level of rigidness that's there. Like you made mention of before, even guys like Shaq and LeBron James, as well as Dwayne Wade, were held to a certain standard. And as guys like Jimmy Butler came in, the Heat were a lot more lax. That being said, I don't think Giannis at this present point is feeling that notion, but I also don't think that can legitimately happen because they're not giving it Bam Adebayo. I actually chatted with Bam this week, and we talked about Heat culture and his connectivity to Pat Riley, and he shared with me that he really enjoys playing in the 305, and that he enjoys where he is playing for a Hall of Famer in Pat Riley, who's an executive and a future Hall of Famer, and head coach Eric Spoelstra, who's won multiple championships as the head coach of the Heat, and he likes it here. So, in answer to your question, Giannis, if I take him at what I know to be true, not feeling the Heat just because of some people who have played for them and they may not have had the best experience towards the end. If I hold them at what I know to be true, sure. I think the Heat are in a very interesting situation. I actually put the Nets in a similar box in this vein. The New York Knicks years ago, when they couldn't get certain stars to come for various reasons, I think the Heat and the Nets are in a similar box. The Nets, because of how things went with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and James Harden, and ultimately going to their respective teams, and players and stars watch stuff like that, and they look at how their friends who are also their colleagues and peers may be treated, and just the culture as it relates to. And I know culture is a buzzword, but just the office politics that are there, and sometimes their past dealings with certain stars could dictate how new stars coming in could kind of not want to deal with that. And so that's the smoke that I was getting on the end of Giannis, that even guys like LeBron James, who kind of towards the end wasn't really feeling what was going on in Miami, and he went elsewhere. He went back to Cleveland. So it'll be interesting to see. I personally think that for Giannis, his relationship with Masai Ujiri kind of goes deeper than just it goes back to the African roots, but also the fact that Toronto is a destination that guys, a city that guys like it's up there with Atlanta to visit. It's up there with LA. It's up there with New York. But he has a connection to Masai Ujiri, and that goes deeper than just the X's and O's in basketball and the business of basketball. So Toronto is a team that he does have interest in. And New York City, aside from the Nets potentially having interest mutually, I have had many conversations with folks in the Greek community in New York, and he has a lot of businesses set up in New York City, and enjoys the nightlife as it relates to kind of just being low key, but also he does like New York City, from what I'm told. I'm not getting the notion that Miami is on his wish list, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to make some major decisions, like when it comes to Giannis. I know that there was also some rumors saying that even if they were to trade Giannis, they want to gut the other team. They really only have Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. They're kind of older role players by now. Damian Lillard, that's around $50 million of dead money, and he's not going to be able to be playing for this upcoming season. So there's a lot of different decisions that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to have to make. It's not going to be easy trading a guy where, like when they first got him, they didn't know he was going to be this all-star and then champion for this organization, especially because no one's running to Milwaukee to win championships. So obviously, if they do trade him, they're going to need something in return. And it's not going to be this in the middle of the night Luka trade where, swap for swap and maybe one first-round pick. No, they're going to go for everything. They're going to try to, quote-unquote, gut the team. So you spoke to Go ahead.
To kind of give your viewers and listeners kind of some bite-sized nuggets. 5 years ago, when Giannis was looking to sign that extension with the Milwaukee Bucks, he gave a list of some players that he'd like to team with. I know Chris Paul was on that list. James Harden was on that list. There were a few guys on the list. There were a list of requests that he had before he ultimately did sign that extension with the Bucks. And a year later, the Bucks did win an NBA championship in 2021. And I think that championship kind of cemented a honeymoon phase with the team. And then ultimately Mike Budenholzer did part ways with the team. And but I know that the Bucks feared that the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors would swoop in back then. A lot has changed since 2020. And Giannis is at a point in his career, um, kind of like when LeBron finished in Miami in 2014, where he's won, he's gotten his game has improved. He's getting older. He's a family man. He's married. He kind of wants to be in a situation where he's a lot more settled. And I also look at that roster with an injured Damian Lillard and Bobby Portis, who I think the world of, and Brooke Lopez, who kind of are at points where they can join championship teams as free agents and be successful. I think there comes a point where it's possible that things have run its course, and to just show up and win games but not win championships is waste of youth and talent. And while he's not made any overtures that he wants to be traded, some would argue that the writing is on the wall. The Heat are also objectively in a very interesting situation because they seem to be in like this logjam, similarly to like the Lakers, where you've accounted for a lot of money, you've made finals appearances, and you have star power, but you're stuck. It's like you're getting ready to be at the end of Tetris, and you don't have any holes or shapes to fill to bring down your shaping, and to you need some more lines. But how do you get those lines? And I'm talking about lines of blocks. So when you look at Giannis, he's not in pole position because he can have a wish list of 50 million teams he wants to go to. He doesn't have a no trade clause, but I also know that when you look at other teams across the league, the Spurs, the Houston Rockets, they are some of those teams that also have a desire to bring Giannis in. So I think as much as we talk about the Heat, as much as we talk about the Warriors, as much as we talk about the Nets, we talk about the Toronto Raptors, I previously reported a few weeks ago that if the Bucks are not in a position to negotiate with any of these teams, this is where you look at teams like the New Orleans Pelicans, who have some draft leverage, who could be a third or fourth team to come in and have conversation with the Bucks as well. These conversations are very fluid, but ultimately it starts with Giannis actually formally requesting a trade.
Now, where do you stand with Tyler Hero? Like, I know that you spoke to Bam about, and I think that Tyler and Bam, yes, they're good young players. However, they're not really number one options. I think that Bam is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. To think that he hasn't gotten a DPOY, but Rudy Gobert, where he's being taken off the floor, Marcus Smart, I think they really just hand gifted it to him. Like, what do you think about Tyler and Bam Adebayo? Because like I know that Bam spoke about Heat culture and everything like that, but what do you think needs to change? Because you're right, we are stuck. We have a lot of young players. We have Tyler, we have Bam, but we don't really have that number one option. Yeah, Wiggins is good, but it's almost as if like he really doesn't even want to be here. He was just thrown here in a trade. So what do the Miami Heat do going forward? Because I can't see the Miami Heat giving Tyler Hero this mega extension when he does have some of the deficiencies that we can all see. And, Bam is great, but he's not going to consistently give you 25 and 10 every single night. So where do the Miami Heat stand going forward?
Well, in answer to your question about to answer your question about Tyler Hero, this is the same Tyler Hero that Pat Riley was hesitant to trade 3 years ago. So there's something there that keeps him on staff as a rostered player. So I kind of see more of the same. I think that's my position. I think it's more of the same. As it relates to Bam Adebayo, who, over the last month we've spoken on record twice. We spoke in April about the Defensive Player of the Year award specifically, and he believes that there's a lot of politics involved. And, whenever you're not, aligned with the media, so to speak, you're not the popular kid, and so you're the odd man out. You wonder what that would look like in other cities. By no means am I prognosticating that he will be traded elsewhere, but what I am saying is when you're not winning, the attention shifts. And so I look at Bam Adebayo as a guy who is a 20 and 10 threat. I kind of feel like in a lot of respects, he is consistently picking up where we thought Anthony Davis would stay consistently when healthy. I don't think that's enough on Anthony Davis. I really do think that Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis are both talented players, but one has been more healthier than the other. And I think Bam has been healthy. I just think he's been on a team that has not garnered the national attention since really maybe the bubble a little time after that, as it relates to being in the win column and going deep into the playoffs respectfully. But I do think that Bam spoke to me about how much he learned during USA basketball last year, being around Steph Curry, LeBron James, and others, and how he applied it to this season. And we spoke about how Jimmy leaving Miami and him being really the focal point of that team really tested his resilience, his will, and it really gave him motivation to keep going. And you like to hear things like that from homegrown players. Jimmy is not a homegrown player. Bam is. And I think that level of loyalty should be rewarded, and time will tell, where that goes. But it seems that he is at a secure spot in Miami, and so does Tyler Herro.
Well, Brendan, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Please let the people know where they can find you on social media and all of your work.
Twitter and Instagram at Scoop B is where you can find me, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, YouTube TV. Actually, on Monday, we are dropping, on Memorial Day, we're dropping an interview with New York Knicks fan favorite, Spike Lee.
Guys, make sure that you guys check out his work. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. We're pushing to 7,000 subscribers. And thank you guys for all the support.